Let's go! Let's go! It's Friday night again. Time for us to begin. Time to meet and greet. The place with shorty shorts that can't be beat. Maybe we'll talk about our week, a little RPG and G.I. Joe critique. Before we have an attack of the prompt, he'll drive us wild this week on this wrong. Let's listen to some tunes, music from the hilt. Maybe we'll share something new, just enjoying what we air. Topic takes are there for us all to compare. Talk about how we feel while also running the reel. After that we'll just chill, keeping it real. Just relaxing with our friends in chat. Fridays are where it's at. Fridays from the hilt. I hope you have some fun, good times, best times with our community. Fridays are from the hilt. Let's go! Let's go! I hope you have some fun, good times, best times with our community. Fridays are from the hilt. Let's go!
But I'm going to play an old intro to the 80s TV series, and hopefully we'll bring back some memories.
Let's go.
In 2086, two peaceful aliens journeyed to Earth, seeking our help. In return, they gave us the plans for our first hyperdrive, allowing mankind to open the doors to the stars. We have assembled a team of unique individuals to protect Earth and our allies, courageous pioneers committed to the highest ideals of justice and dedicated to preserving law and order across the new frontier. These are the adventures of the Galaxy Rangers.
We'll figure that out. All right, we're back in. All right, so Galaxy Rangers. To me, one of the coolest TV shows of the 80s. Right up there in my favorites list with G.I. Joe. Some days I'm a bigger fan of Galaxy Rangers than I am G.I. Joe, and that's saying a lot for me. Galaxy Rangers is available on DVD, as far as I know, only, and old VHS videos and a few DVDs of videos and episodes. Looks like Tiger dropped out. I guess you don't want to talk about Galaxy Rangers today, but she likes Galaxy Rangers too.
She was a bit tired.
Yeah. And then we've got the second part of the collection. But what I wanted to talk about was some of the characters and the little booklets that came. Oh, she came back in. Did you get booted out there, Tiger?
No, it froze up. I wasn't hearing you, and you weren't hearing me. And...
Okay, well, here you are. So good. We're talking Galaxy Rangers now. So
yes, I love Galaxy Rangers.
Like I said, it came with these little booklets that explain the first part of it explains the show, but there's a section in here that goes over all the characters, and for a booklet to come with a DVD that does that, I thought that was really cool. It made me feel like I wasn't the only fan of this old show, but like I said, it goes over the characters. Like Captain Zachary Fox was the commander of the team of Rangers. His wife got taken by the enemy on the first episode. It was really sad. They ended up getting her back partially but she was left in a coma because of some kind of weird alien technology that kept her mind in a crystal. And the Queen of the Crown was the name of the leader of the enemies. She ended up having that through the whole series.
It gave the main character really good motivation against the antagonist.
Right. So, yeah, they show like in here they show his wife, and then there's Shane Guzman, who was his lieutenant.
My favorite character.
One of the cooler characters on the
Shane
show.
Guzman, Zachary Fox. Let's go back to Zachary
back
Fox.
to Zachary.
He was in the first episode. He got injured, and they had to totally repair the whole left side of his body. And what happened was he ended up with bionics through his whole left side, and he could actually take his arm and fire a laser blast out of it. And what they would do, the Rangers, they were Series 5 Rangers. They never really explained what the levels were in the TV series. It seemed to me like they had an idea behind the scenes, but
never actually got into it.
Yeah, they only made 36 episodes on the first season, and unfortunately, they didn't get picked up for a second season. I don't know why. I watched it all the time. Whenever
Things fall through the cracks.
This is true. You never know what happens with stuff. But
I never got to see it when it aired myself.
Yeah, a lot of people did. And in LA, they stopped airing it after about 2 weeks. It was about 6 weeks in, and then they just stopped airing it.
That's a shame.
They never aired the second half of the season. But they would have to activate their badges in order to make their powers work, the 4 main characters. And so he'd have to activate his badge to fire what they called his Thunderbolt. And it was kind of cool. And that was Captain Zachary Fox, but Lieutenant Shane Guzman, his abilities were all over the place.
Oh my gosh.
If he activated his badge, he could adapt to just about any situation. He's what they called a super trooper in that show. And it was kind of neat. There were others like him, but they didn't have the Series 5 implant. And so he encountered some of them in a few of the episodes. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, didn't they go crazy or something?
The Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, they kind of went.
Time.
You kind of talked over.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. You're right, Shannon. Yeah, the others kind of went a little crazy. Even the girl that was in love with him from that group, she ended up going with the other guy anyway. It was kind of weird. Also, Shane Guzman in that series, for a while there, he wore this black suit with a black hat. It was a lot cooler than his normal uniform. And sometimes they'd wear trench coats. Sometimes they
good guys dressed in black.
On the episode, or where they were going.
I think the best way to kind of imagine the Galaxy Ranger universe is to think sort of like Firefly, only still on Earth and a Western in space. But, it was also very militaristic. That's why it was very similar in a lot of ways to G.I. Joe.
Which probably explains why.
They also had 2 specialists on their team, and one was a gal named Nico. And Nico, like I said, we had a lot of pictures in the intro video, but Nico had mind powers. She could not just see the future or the past, but she could sense certain things. She could sense danger. It was kind of interesting when she would activate her badge.
Powerful telepath.
Yeah, and she also was kind of a telekinetic too. She could actually activate a force field. And one time they combined all their badges together, and she actually drew upon all their power. It was kind of neat how they could do that. And she put a barrier around the entire ship while they were going through an asteroid field, a fiery asteroid field. They did a lot of really cool stuff on it.
A lot of creative stuff.
So what do you guys?
The animation on it.
I probably should have said, hey, what do you guys remember about Zachary Fox? I mean, we got one more character we'll talk about. We'll get to him because he's actually,
last but not least,
he's actually one of the coolest characters. So what do you guys think of Zachary Fox? I mean, he wasn't my favorite character, but I really liked him and his story arc with his wife. He also had 2 kids, which made that even harder and heart-wrenching. For an 80s TV show, I thought it was more than they normally went. The lengths they went to was a little bit more.
Yeah.
They put a little bit of a oomph into it, I thought.
It felt less like a Saturday morning cartoon and more.
They were actually on Saturday mornings. It was on the weekdays.
Like
I know
the type of cartoon it was.
I know.
It felt more like in line with something you'd see nowadays.
Or like in an anime or something. It was really, really good.
Well, it did have slight, animation from Japan and Korea. They had animators from that working on it. It was some of the best animation and computer animation, especially of its time.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So what did you think of Zach Fox, Shannon?
He was a really good leader. He had that no nonsense sort of aura, but he also had a gentle nature to him, I think.
Yeah, he did. Well, he could be driven to a rage a lot too, especially where it regarded his wife. But
Well, that was
who
normal.
can blame him, you know? What about Shane Gooseman, Max? We all know how the Tiger feels about Shane Gooseman.
Oh yeah, she could talk.
Shane's
all
my
day.
man.
I don't know. From what I remember, Shane Gooseman was kind of a loose cannon sometimes.
A bit. Sometimes. Well, he was actually really young, and the Tiger and I were talking about it yesterday because I watched a bunch of the episodes. And
To get it fresh in your mind.
well, not only that, if I like to watch it every once in a while. It's just one of those shows I like to watch again. I think that Shane Gooseman, when he was a genetic experiment that they grew.
Experiment.
Yes, if I can speak. That they grew in a lab. He wasn't born. So I think maybe they enhanced like his aging ability, and he was actually an adult longer than he's been.
Yeah, they say in the files that he's the youngest of
He's
the Rangers.
youngest of the Rangers, but he acts like the oldest, and he seems to have the most experience, even more than the captain.
Which is weird because again, he's the youngest.
right.
Yeah, he wasn't born. He was government issued.
He really was. That's the sad part. He really was government issued. And then there's Nico. So what do you guys think of Nico?
I don't really remember much about her except for
Being telepathic.
Yeah, I like Nico, but I have a bias. I like redheads, so she was part of the reason I watched the show.
Yeah, they seem to like try to indicate her liking the commander, but to be honest, I think it would have been better off if they would have had her and Doc get together.
Well, the captain, they couldn't really put them together because he was still married technically.
No, I know that, but they made it seem like she kind of liked him like that, you know.
Well, they made it seem like she liked Shane Gooseman.
Sometimes I think she was looking after him more like a little brother.
Maybe. I didn't see it that way. I thought they should have got together. That's just me and my.
I still think her and Doc would have been cooler.
Maybe. Well, and that's who we're talking about right now, Doc. That's what they called him, was Doc. He was the computer specialist.
honestly, I think Doc.
His name was actually Walter Hartford.
I think Doc is one of my favorite characters because of all of the stuff that he was able to do with the show.
Well, his abilities.
Well, he was the ultimate nerd.
His abilities with his Series 5 implant were more unique than the others. Because Shane Gooseman's were all, like I said, all over the place and really cool, and they weren't very specified. Now, on the opposite token, Doc's abilities were very specified, but they were all computer related. And what he would actually do is he had this little device that he'd pull out, and he'd activate his badge, and he could actually command these little programs that he called tweakers. Hindsight is bliss, right? But these tweakers would go into the computer, and they all had names, and each little program did there was Pathfinder, and they had they did that a lot on that show with AI though. All the AIs had their own little personalities, and even their commander was a brain in a floating chamber that Commander Delgado, and he was just a brain. And then there was the two ambassadors that you saw in the intro. They were throughout the show, and they were like part of the Galaxy Rangers for the most part. And the statement that the taller of the two, Waldo, made was that Commander Nagato had died years ago, and that only his brain unit has survived, whatever that means. But it was kind of interesting. This flat brain came out on this hovering device with a dome over it. It's like he had his little ecosystem. It was weird. And they only showed him, I think, like on one episode or two episodes. I don't remember him being in it that often, but
very sci-fi.
Yes. Then they had a character in there called Q-Ball that was like he was their super tech guy, but he didn't have abilities like Doc. But Q-Ball, and then there was Buzzwing. His creation was a android that ended up actually becoming a Galaxy Ranger. he earned his badge, but I don't think he was Series 5. I think he was like Series 3 or 4. Again, they didn't really define the series very well.
Buzz Wang was their C3PO.
There's Dr.
So
Owen
you
the
said to know.
It was just a floating, on this side here, it was just a floating brain unit. It was weird. And then there's Commander Walsh. Commander Walsh was, I actually liked Commander Walsh. There's so many little touches on this show that were
He was a very lenient commander when it came to the Galaxy Rangers.
And they insinuated sometimes that they used his DNA to actually create Shane Gooseman. So technically he was his father. So Shane actually got away with a lot of stuff.
I am your father.
There were so many things where it's like, wow, in a normal, well, if it were anybody else, they would have been decommissioned.
Yeah, well, Commander Walsh also would also go to bat for the Rangers. He'd always have their backs, and I thought that was neat. He was a good commander. There's somebody at our bell, our door. It's probably my package. I told you my package would arrive during our live stream. Anyway, there's the two ambassadors, Waldo and Zozo. And Waldo was the big tall one, and he was all super smart, and he was an Andorian, and that was their thing. In some ways, they were like space elves, but the space elves who were
peacekeepers. They didn't do any war.
And then little Zozo, man. Zozo was a Kiwi from the planet Kirwin, and they grew all sorts of food and stuff. I think.
Yeah, they were.
It was
agriculturalists.
But he was actually really tough, and he would like throw bigger guys around and hit Waldo's force field all the time. It was kind of neat, and he was a martial artist. That's what I thought was really cool. A little purple halfling martial artist. Yeah, then they had some people on that show that were bad guys, kinda, and kinda not.
I love Captain.
Captain Kidd was he was like a pirate captain. He was kind of a bird man. And he had this little buddy called the Squeege, and me the Squeege, and that sat on his shoulder. But he had a bird man, so it's like he had a bird man, and we got our package. Thank you. But so in lieu of a parrot, as a pirate captain, he had a little furry monkey on his shoulder. It wasn't really a monkey, but it was a monkey-like creature. Yeah, just set it over. Those are my dice for tomorrow. I got some dice. They ran into a few characters infrequently, but they would run into them more than once. And one of those characters was Maya, and they focused on her in this book because the season finale, Maya, over here if I get it right, there she is. Maya actually had this staff that spoke and could shoot things, and people would they'd say, "What kind of technology is that?" And then she'd like, "I don't know," but it was kind of magic, but yet it wasn't. She'd have to recharge the staff. Sounded magical to me, but
magic is just science.
She'd zap people with electronic and cybernetic abilities, and the staff would say, "You are merely deactivated for the moment." So it was pretty in a prim and proper British accent too. But the main antagonist of the show was the Queen of the Crown. And the Queen of the Crown, if I can get this right, she was really serious and over the top and ridiculous a lot. And
she kind of reminds me of the Queen from Snow White.
Yeah, she did. She reminded me of Maleficent.
Maleficent
is
Aurora.
Yes. Maleficent is my ogre from one of my adventures, but Maleficent, yes.
That's the wrong
Maleficent.
Snow White.
Oh,
the Evil Queen. I don't think the Evil Queen had a name.
Wasn't that her name?
No, Maleficent was in Aurora, Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, okay. Maleficent was in Sleeping Beauty.
I got it mixed up. I fall asleep during Disney movies.
Snow White was just the evil queen.
Anyway, what the Queen of the Crown would do is she would take, like with Zachary Fox's wife, she would take life forms and suck out their psychic energy, and she'd make what she called slaver lords. And the slaver lords were something else, man. They just, if I can get them on camera,
kind of like a deity's avatar.
Yeah, a deity's avatar. It was really kind of like an avatar. And these slaver lords would go around and command her troops, and then the crown agents. They had this really cool set of armor, and
some of those guys had the funniest lines.
oh yeah, Doc would come up and go, "This is the Imperial Phone Company," and
Apparently, they did give the evil queen a name.
oh,
Her name is Queen Grimhilda.
You know, that's not in the book.
It's probably from the original fairy tale, guys.
Oh, you mean the Sleeping Beauty Queen? I'm talking Galaxy Rangers, and you guys went off on a
Sorry, so you were talking about. Mom brought it up.
No, okay, I get you.
No, she looked like Snow White's queen.
Anyway,
from Disney's Snow White.
We could talk about some of the characters all day long. Now, the other booklet for the second season, the second half of the season, they were split up like they were 2 seasons because they had one had 34 episodes and the other one had 35, but it was still all one season, and it aired the first season. Some people say it's the second season, but it never aired that way. But this book goes over all the spaceships, and the Ranger one was really cool, the Galaxy Ranger space yacht, and so this DVD set is really worth having if you like the show. And then they have these robo steeds that they rode all the time.
Oh, those were cool.
Robo steeds were really
cool. Let me get my cheaters back on so I can read this here. But yeah. Gooseman's horse was named Triton. Voyager, Doc rode a few times, but that was really Nico's horse. Mel was Nico's horse. I mean, Doc's horse. And then Z100, which they called Brutus on one episode, I think is only one, was Zachary Fox. And Zachary Fox, it says in here, Zachary, being of the Army issue mentality, rides any horse that operates properly. Zach's horse is usually the gold Z100. So, like I said, they had little captions in here for it. They had a submarine that they would use. Shane Gooseman actually had an affinity with animals. And there were these dolphins that they had in the future they could talk.
Oh yeah, I remember the dolphins. They talked.
Yeah, and he had the robo horse Triton seemed to have an affinity towards Gooseman only, and would only let Gooseman ride him. It was kind of neat. They have these little hover bikes. I mean, it's just the way they put this series together was really cool. I mean, they go into detail of, like I said, their headquarters at Beta Mountain. And then the Beta Orbital Space Station. And then they had these battleships, like the Laredo. And the battleship Laredo was massive, but it was really cool. And had all these cannons on the front that would fire out. And they had an episode called Armada, where the Queen of the Crown actually invaded Earth. And they had to fight her off. And they showed the difference between the ships. And Earth ships were just really no match for the Queen of the Crown. It was kind of sad, but that was a really intense episode too. The Ranger 1, like I said, the Galaxy Ranger space yacht. What was cool about Ranger 1 was it could switch out the front of the ship to be different kinds for different missions. It had a different purpose. Like one had a science pod, one had a just a regular shuttle pod. One had a supply pod, an assault pod, and an ambassadorial shuttle pod. This is the one they actually used a lot. Because they had Waldo and Zozo with them. They had the land vehicle, the Ranger land vehicle. It was pretty cool. It hovered across the ground and went really fast. They used that in quite a few episodes. The one I watched yesterday was called Smuggler's Gauntlet, and they rode that through all these tunnels on a different planet, and it was like streets set up through tunnels, and some of them would be out in the open with domes over them. And they had the bad guys crashing into the sides of the different pipes that they'd go into. It was almost like plumbing, but it was traffic. It was very interesting the way they set that up. Like I said, they had flying subs and the jet cycles. They even had this big old terrain vehicle, the Galaxy Ranger All-Terrain Explorer, and their spacesuits were they were like jumpsuits. So they had a little jetpack on the back. They could fly around in space, and the suits actually, they could add little attachments to them, and they could do various things. It was a neat concept. The entire show was way ahead of its time, and I'm probably going to kick that dead horse to the grave.
I agree, though. I feel sad that they'd only had the one season, because it seems like it would have been like a really cool, long-lasting series with the animation and stuff.
I wish they had finished up the storyline with his wife, and they never were able to do that.
Well, then you can say what happened in your own head canon. How's that?
This is true, yes. And if I could ever write it, I would do so. Um, this ship right here, the Iron Falcon, that was Captain Kidd's ship, and
I like Captain Kidd.
Captain Kidd and his pirate crew were in the very first episode in the whole series. They had a couple episodes with a little creature called a Pendulum. That was kind of like a gnomish tinker.
He looked like a little elephant.
Smuggler. Yeah, he looked like a little elephant.
Easy.
And he'd call them hummings and hummings and
Easy.
They had just so many intricacies in the dialects and everything for the aliens, and
It felt like an actual living ecosystem.
yes, it did.
Like, it didn't feel like, oh, this is only here because the plot needs it. No. Just,
No, it had a lot of stuff, like the slaver shuttle cruiser, and then the slaver fighters. The slaver fighters actually were very, very powerful, but the Ranger interceptors were just, of course, Earth technology. And the fighter was better, but the bigger ships, it seemed like the Queen of the Crown had them beat. They had to figure out a workaround just to get out of the situation where they were being invaded in the Armada episode. But hey, the things they did in 20 minutes on that show, it seemed like back in the 80s, they did so much more in so less time. They packed a lot more action and adventure in just a little 20-minute cartoon. And with commercials, it felt like a half hour because it was with the commercials. But when you actually watch them back on DVD, there's like, it's only a 20-minute episode. It's like, it's hard to believe that it's only 20 minutes.
a lot of modern stuff can do that too in less time. Like, a lot of modern stuff only has 11-minute run times.
This is true.
That's because people are YouTube trained.
They just have so little attention span nowadays. It's
What I liked about Galaxy Rangers, though, was that they didn't forget their races. Like, you would see another episode and you'd see some of the other races that previous episodes feature, and you're like, oh, hey, there's that race again. Or sometimes they'd have reoccurring characters. Like Captain Kidd was one that reoccurred a lot. And
they appear in like 2 or 3 episodes even.
Yeah, well, they also had like other Pedulants, the elephant people. And
they had all sorts of alien races. You'd run into.
And they were always talking about the Queen taking over this one last race that they were trying to find.
Gherkins.
Gherkins, yes.
Gherkin.
People were trying to capture Gherkins
because hard to define exactly what Gherkins were. We were trying to do that yesterday when we were watching.
They look like caterpillars.
Or roly-polies is what I concluded later on. I mean, you take it off. I'm like, oh, they remind me of roly-polies. So I think they were kind of a bug species, but they had a lot of those. In one episode, they ran into a group of beings called the Trash with 2 A's in the middle. And they were just a hive mind mentality. And they would just go into a solar system and take everything. And so, yeah, for an 80s TV show, and I'm gonna conclude on that note, on this note, I should say. For an 80s TV show, it was well done to the point where it should be a live action TV show nowadays. That's the way I see it. They could very easily make this a decent show nowadays. So it still holds up.
I don't know. I feel like they'd ruin it.
They probably would, but unless somebody who loved it did it, like me, maybe me. Yeah, here's hoping, right?
Who actually owns the rights to Galaxy Rangers?
That would be it's a hotel chain called, I got it right up here on the thing. It's like Ryman Hospitality Properties Inc. or something like that, if my mouse will work.
That is it's weird.
Ryman Hospitality Properties Inc. And I contacted them, but they naturally did not get back to me. So
I think that's weird that a hotel chain owns the rights to something that fell through the cracks.
But as far as I can tell, according to YouTube, there's no restrictions on using Galaxy Rangers. So I'm hoping. But
we want to kickstart the series again.
Everything that we use, YouTube cleared, and I put into a video by itself, which will air tomorrow. So a little mini video. So people watching this tonight, you can just watch the Galaxy Ranger stuff tomorrow, the intro and whatnot. Anyway, that takes care of talking about Galaxy Rangers, and I think we did a lot more informative video about Galaxy Rangers than we did Robin Sherwood last week.
Oops.
In 2086, two peaceful aliens journeyed to Earth, seeking our help. In return, they gave us the plans for our first hyperdrive, allowing mankind to open the doors to the stars. We have assembled a team of unique individuals to protect Earth and our allies, courageous pioneers committed to the highest ideals of justice and dedicated to preserving law and order across the new frontier. These are the adventures of the Galaxy Rangers.
And now give a warm welcome to a new band from Earth, the Galaxy Rangers.
Let's rock and roll, dudes. I'm going to enjoy this.
Goose, set your axe on stunt.
Somewhere